My family runs an antique shop, and we accidentally swapped children with the Greens, the giants of the antique world. On the day we brought the real heiress home, we thought the fake one wouldn't return, but she did. She came holding her complete guide to antique appraisal. I just shoved my hands into my pockets and got into the car, earning a sidelong glance from the domineering CEO who came to pick me up. "Where's your luggage?" I replied slowly, couldn't be bothered to bring any. "Isn't bringing just me enough?" The domineering CEO was speechless. I got in the car, sat down, fastened my seatbelt myself, and slumped back into a comfortable position, not moving a muscle. Harry Green looked at me with an indescribable expression, as if he were staring at something utterly abstract. Oh, Harry Green is my long-lost biological elder brother, whose profession is CEO of an antique auction house. And I am the true heiress who was switched at birth. My casual attitude, as if on a picnic, left Harry Green silent for quite a while. When he finally spoke, he asked, "Aren't you going to say goodbye to them?" "No, sis, my one and only sis. Are you really leaving just like this?" I had barely opened my mouth when a wail cut me off, followed by a human-shaped projectile hurtling toward me and clinging to the car window, grabbing at my hand. "I can't bear to let you go. What will I do without you?" As they spoke, they seized my arm and shook it violently. I felt like seaweed tossed by waves, trembling uncontrollably as my soul seemed to float right out of my mouth. "Well, I'm off. If you need me, burn some paper." I peacefully closed my eyes. Frank paused, then burst into even louder sobs the next moment. "Sis, we still haven't verified if that calligraphy piece of mine is genuine." He was lifted up and set straight, his crying abruptly ceasing. Mia held a thick notebook in her arms, adjusted her glasses on the bridge of her nose, and a cold glint seemed to flash behind the lenses. "Frank, right, according to Mom and Dad, you're responsible for safeguarding the 8 blue and white porcelain pieces in the shop during this period." The serious tone of questioning made Frank instinctively straighten his posture, adopting the solemn attitude he once had when facing his elementary school homeroom teacher. Yes, what's the matter?" Mia flipped open her notebook with a whoosh, pulled a pen from her breast pocket, and began scribbling away as she asked, "What time do you check every day? How are the artifacts stored? What's the temperature and humidity control? Any abnormal wear?" With each question, Frank's mouth slowly gaped open, his whole demeanor appearing utterly dumbfounded. Harry Green, however, seemed to have anticipated this all along. He slightly lifted his eyelids and stood silently by the side, showing no emotion. I was quite surprised to glance at Mia. From being a wealthy heiress to the daughter of an antique shop owner, she showed no sense of disparity and adapted even faster than I did. Mia met my gaze and nodded politely. I smiled and pointed at Frank, who was standing dumbfounded, saying to her, "Frank is really easy to use. You can ask him to do anything you have in mind." Mia's eyes lit up slightly as she thought for a moment before speaking. "The Green family has money." The eldest Green brother was speechless. The younger Duncan sibling was speechless. It was almost 10 o'clock by the time we returned to the Green family villa. Well past my usual bedtime, my eyelids were heavy with sleep, and I could barely keep myself from nodding off while standing. Just as I stepped through the door, I was startled by an overly affected voice that nearly scared away all my drowsiness. "Big brother, you're finally back. Aunt Lucy, hurry and bring out the white fungus and lotus seed soup I asked you to prepare." Big brother must be exhausted after traveling all day and probably didn't eat well on the road. A girl in a beige cheongsam gracefully ran over, gathering around Harry Green with warm concern, her brows slightly furrowed to express worry. After saying a lot, her gaze flickered toward me, and she covered her mouth in surprise. "Oh, sister, I'm sorry, I forgot about you." She glanced at me cautiously, then looked back at Harry Green. "Big brother, is this Sister Cora, then?" "Sister Mia really isn't coming back." Harry Green's face remained expressionless. "Where she wants to go is her business. From now on, Cora will be your sister." She turned to me and said, "This is Winnie, a child your mother sponsors, and now she's practically adopted." Winnie looked at me timidly, her expression quite awkward. "Cora, sis, I didn't know you were coming back today. I didn't prepare anything for you." You won't blame me, will you?" I covered my mouth and yawned. My body might still be standing here, but my soul had long since drifted away. "Are you done talking? If you're done, hurry up and find a place to sleep." Harry Green pinched the bridge of his nose, his handsome face showing a trace of exhaustion. "It's been a long day. take her back to the room to rest. Winnie bit her lip. But the room isn't ready yet. Harry Green lowered his hand, frowning slightly. What's going on? Wasn't it all arranged before we left? His stern gaze shifted to Aunt Lucy beside him. Winnie flusteredly explained, "It's not Aunt Lucy's fault, it's me. I thought since my sister was coming back, I'd give her my room, but there was too much stuff, and I couldn't finish tidying up in time." As she spoke, she looked on the verge of tears. Harry Green frowned even deeper. "There are so many empty rooms upstairs, just tidy up another one, but mine has the best lighting. When sister comes back, she should have the best room. It's all my fault, I should have moved out earlier. I shouldn't have taken such a nice room in the first place. Let sister sleep in my room tonight. I can sleep anywhere, sis." Winnie wiped her tears and looked at me bravely, the words in her mouth abruptly stopping. Harry Green followed her gaze, his calm expression cracking slightly. There I was, leaning against the wall with my eyes closed, having been sound asleep for quite some time. I slept until noon the next day, waking up in a completely unfamiliar room, not a bit nervous. When I was little, I once went with my dad to collect antiques late at night and was exhausted on the way back at dawn. Seeing a haystack by the roadside, I lay down and fell asleep instantly. My dad was walking ahead when he suddenly turned around and realized his big daughter was gone, breaking out in a cold sweat. My mom nagged me about this for over a month, and young Frank was assigned an extra task because of it: keep an eye on me. Don't let me sleep anywhere. When I went downstairs, Harry Green and Winnie were already seated at the dining table. Harry Green looked up at me and seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. I've never seen anyone sleep so soundly, lying in bed like a corpse, completely unresponsive no matter how much you call them. If it weren't for the fact that they were still warm to the touch, I would have taken them to the hospital. After I sat down, Harry Green asked a few concerned questions and told me to make a list of anything I needed, saying he'd have his assistant buy it later. Across from me, Winnie bit her lip, looking like she had something to say but couldn't bring herself to speak. I certainly wouldn't take the initiative to speak. If anyone can get me to say even one more word, they're truly impressive. Frank has knelt down countless times begging me to acknowledge him. When the dishes were served, I picked at the one in front of me and ate slowly. Harry Green glanced at me once, then again, and finally couldn't hold back from speaking. "With so many dishes, why are you only eating that one?" He paused, his tone softening slightly. "This is your home, don't be shy, help yourself to whatever you'd like." Winnie seemed to be waiting for this opportunity. Hearing this, she immediately started putting food into my bowl. "Sister, you've never had these dishes before, try them all. I know your family runs an antique shop." She let out an "ah" and covered her mouth, blinking her eyes at me as she said, "Sister, I didn't mean it intentionally, and I don't look down on running an antique shop either. It's just that living in such a place, you must have suffered a lot. Now that you're back with the Green family, things will be different. Just tell me what you'd like to eat, sis, and I'll make sure Aunt Lucy prepares it for you." After saying this, she stared at me, waiting for my reaction. I responded flatly with an "oh, thank you." She waited a moment, her smile stiffening slightly. After a pause, I turned to Harry Green. "It's too far, lifting my arm is tiring." Harry Green froze for a moment before realizing this was the answer to his earlier question. He felt both amused and exasperated. "It's just a matter of raising a hand." My phone kept chiming with incoming messages. Seeing that I wasn't paying any attention, Harry Green gave me a reminder. "Won't you take a look?" "Don't bother." I didn't even lift my head, continuing to eat with my face buried in my meal. Winnie's eyes flickered slightly as she suddenly reached out and picked up my phone, putting on an air of consideration for me. "What if it's something urgent? Even though you've returned to the Green family, you shouldn't cut ties with people you knew before." He casually tapped open his phone, and instantly, piercing cries flooded through the screen. "Sis, save me, please, sis, that woman is a devil. She stays up all night writing antique collection proposals. Just the maintenance guidelines for blue and white porcelain alone are 100 items. 100. She even said she wants to expand our antique shop, aiming to open branches in 6 months and go public in 3 years. He dragged me out of bed at 6 in the morning, making me evaluate the value of each antique one by one, and then forced me to study the characteristics of porcelain from different dynasties. I don't want to spend the rest of my life tied to antiques, and I definitely don't want to be the young master of an antique dealer, not even if it's a publicly traded one. A series of wails echoed through the living room. painting a vivid picture of Frank's utter despair. The living room was unusually silent. Beside them, Harry Green straightened his back. "I'm done eating, take your time." With that, he stood up and strode out the door to work. For some reason, it felt like an unexpected surge of adrenaline, and Winnie, who used to be quite dramatic, suddenly became well-behaved. I looked thoughtful. The child who was switched with me, the former Green family heiress, now Frank's elder sister. Is she really that intimidating, under Frank's relentless bombardment? I learned just how driven Mia is. Not only did she stay up late working on proposals, but she also tirelessly renovated the storefront, implementing scientific management and precision marketing. She was also incredibly humble, personally visiting Duncan Father's antique shop to inspect it, spending 3 days helping appraise antiques, and then proceeding with the overhaul. And it must be said, the revamped antique shop improved by more than just a notch. Business became much better than before. Poor Frank became the only capable soldier under Mia's command, but that wasn't the scariest part. The truly terrifying thing was that Mia's antique shop was just her side gig. Her main job was being the team leader of the Green Auction House Project Group. After turning 18, she applied with her resume and climbed her way up from a junior employee step by step, with no one knowing she was the Green family heiress at the time. Absolutely terrifying. Suddenly understood Harry Green's sense of urgency this morning. With such an overachieving younger sister always threatening his CEO throne, how could he ever act domineering? But now that it's replaced by a slacker like me, there shouldn't be such worries anymore. The domineering big brother works to support the family while I lounge on the sofa playing with my phone. Winnie finished practicing the piano. I collapsed on the sofa. Winnie finished her calligraphy class. I collapsed on the sofa. Winnie learns the art of tea from Aunt Lucy. I turned over. "Sis, you..." Winnie walked up to me with freshly brewed tea, hesitating to speak. My fingers tapped on the screen, completely unaware of the human-shaped presence beside me. A flicker of annoyance crossed Winnie's delicate face as her tone suddenly rose. "Sister, although the Green family is wealthy, we should still enrich ourselves and not waste our time." She paused slightly at this point, bit her lip, and continued. "Perhaps the environment you were in before was too poor, and you've never truly seen outstanding people, so your perspective remains limited. You've grown accustomed to the idle, aimless existence of those at the bottom." But, her voice abruptly sharpened as she clenched her fists, glaring at me with visible anger. "That's no excuse for your degradation." I looked up blankly. What is she saying? Winnie frowned slightly and was about to speak again when suddenly a familiar voice came from the phone. "She's always been like this since childhood, unable to get to the point, lacking logic, and speaking ambiguously." Mia on the other end of the screen paused briefly, then slightly emphasized her tone. "Winnie, have all these years of Chinese classes been wasted? Was it your Chinese teacher's fault in teaching? Or is there something wrong with your learning, otherwise? How could someone your age still be unable to speak clearly?" Sister." Winnie's face turned slightly pale. Her whole body tensed up as she instinctively stood straight. Mia's words seemed to hit her hard, and she turned away, walking off in a daze. "Mia thanked me over the phone. Your software is really easy to use. Frank wasn't wrong. You're really good at this." I gave a non-committal response. Before ending the call, Mia seemed to remember something and gave a reminder. "In a few days, Mom and Dad, the Greens will be back. They're very different from Duncan's parents. You'd better mentally prepare yourself." "How are they different? Aren't they human?" I thought about it for 2 seconds, then tossed it aside. My life at the Greens' house isn't much different from my time at the Duncans'. It's just a change of scenery for lounging around. But that big couch in the Greens' living room is seriously comfortable. These days, aside from going upstairs to sleep, I've barely left it. I actually wanted to sleep directly on the couch, but that very night I got caught red-handed by Harry Green when he came downstairs for water. He pushed me back into the bedroom. He even personally escorted me to the bedroom door to make sure I wouldn't sneak back. "During all these years you've been with the Duncan family," he seemed to have something to say. But in the end, he just pinched the bridge of his nose. "Forget it, get some rest early." These days, Harry Green has fully witnessed the difference between a lazybones and a human being. I can maintain the same posture for hours without moving. On the very first day, Harry Green gave me a card with a monthly allowance of 200,000 deposited into it. But LOL, for days, I haven't even stepped outside my front door, let alone spent any money. Harry Green was also resting at home today when he realized how sloppily I'd been living, to the point where I might accidentally neglect myself to death. He couldn't stand watching anymore, so he manually flipped me over. No, I mean, he helped me correct my unhealthy lifestyle habits. One moment he'd pull me up to stretch my limbs, the next he'd say staring at screens too long isn't good and I should look into the distance. I was so annoyed by him that I rarely took the initiative to ask why he was at home. Harry Green paused, about to say something, when the sound of a car came from outside, and he immediately fell silent. Meanwhile, Winnie, who had been practicing piano upstairs, happily ran down and threw herself into a woman's arms like a young swallow returning to its nest. Mom, Dad, you're back. Winnie missed you so much. The woman hugged her, calling her baby, while the man beside them joined in, making the family of three appear incredibly affectionate, with all sorts of sweet and passionate words flowing effortlessly. Mrs. Green excitedly shared stories from her trip while pulling out various gifts to show off. Winnie played along perfectly, occasionally clasping her face and exclaiming, "Wow," with enthusiastic reactions. Even during dinner, the mother and daughter continued chattering non-stop, while Mr. Green watched them with a smile. What a heartwarming scene it was. I seemed out of place with Harry Green. Harry Green was unusually quiet today, glancing at me with a look that seemed to carry reassurance. I am confused. Harry Green looked at Winnie, who was happily showing off her gifts, and said solemnly, "All right, let's eat first. You can take those gifts back to your room and open them slowly after dinner." Then turning to Mrs. Green, she softened her tone slightly. "Mom, since it's your first time meeting Cora today, shouldn't you give her a gift too?" Mrs. Green let out a long, frustrated, "Oh," only then remembering me, she slapped her forehead as if trying to think of something to give me, but all the gifts she'd brought back had already been unwrapped by Winnie. Without much hesitation, she simply took what was in Winnie's hand. "Cora, this is for you. Mom forgot to buy yours, but I'll make it up next time." Mr. Green chimed in from the side, "Just accept what your mother gave you. We didn't forget you on purpose, it just slipped our minds." I think if Mia were here, she'd definitely say Mr. Green didn't study his Chinese well either, or maybe what he studied was the art of nonsense. I didn't answer. I don't want gifts that others have already opened. My words instantly dropped the temperature at the dining table. Mrs. Green looked flustered and said sadly, "Cora, are you blaming Mommy? Mommy didn't mean to. I'll make it up to you next time." "Okay." Mr. Green put down his chopsticks and immediately darkened his expression. "No manners. Is that how you speak to your mother?" Harry Green rubbed his temples, his irritation seemingly about to overflow. In the suffocating silence, Winnie timidly spoke up, "I don't want those gifts anymore. Give them all to Sister." Mrs. Green immediately felt distressed and took her hand to comfort her. "Sweetheart, you're still the most thoughtful one. Tell Mommy what you like, and I'll buy it all for you." Thank you, Mom." Mother and daughter chatted affectionately, and the storm seemed to have passed just like that. After dinner, the family sat in the sofa area to rest and chat. Mainly Winnie talked with Mr. and Mrs. Green. Harry Green was handling work on his laptop nearby, while I picked up my phone and returned to my usual spot. Mrs. Green glanced disapprovingly at me and Harry Green, feeling we weren't as filial as Winnie. She and Mr. Green had been traveling abroad for several days, and upon returning, neither of us showed proper concern or took time to chat with her. I was speechless. Mr. Green nodded beside her, appearing very much in agreement with his wife. Even when Mia was around before, she was cold, just like her son, both workaholics who showed no consideration for their parents. That's exactly why they adopted Winnie. Now that their biological daughter has returned, she doesn't even bother to spend time with them, treating her phone with more affection than her own parents. At least they adopted one child, otherwise the couple wouldn't have gotten to enjoy any filial piety from their children. Hearing this, I was utterly speechless. Look at Harry Green again, his expression calm and composed. Clearly this is already a cliché he's grown accustomed to. As we talked, somehow the conversation turned to my schooling. He asked which school I attended. Winnie is the same age as me, a senior this year at the prestigious Ginkgo High School. When mentioning the school, she couldn't hide her pride, and Mrs. Green also wore a look of shared honor. My hands kept moving as I casually replied, "Oh, just staying at home." Mrs. Green was still puzzled, muttering about which prestigious school "staying at home" referred to. When Winnie burst out laughing, seeing everyone's eyes on her, she covered her mouth and apologized. "I'm sorry, sis, I didn't mean to laugh. But you made taking a leave from school sound like being a shut-in." She seemed about to laugh again when Mrs. Green sharply exclaimed, "You're not attending school." "Yep," I replied without looking up. "I'm too lazy to go to school. I've been self-taught since childhood and never attended classes." At first, Cloud Dad and Cloud Mom also hoped I could go to school normally like other kids, but after I made the teacher and the whole class cry on my first day at school, that idea remained just an idea forever. They were deeply troubled by this. Later, it was Frank who said that there's an insurmountable barrier between gods and mortals, and forcing deities to mingle with humans only brings discomfort to both. Then he got beaten up, so I never attended school for a single day. But over the past 2 years, the old principal has been trying to persuade me to enroll in his school, especially this year, with the college entrance exams approaching. He hopes I can take them as a registered student. By this point, Mrs. Green was already looking displeased and discussing with her husband about getting me into Winnie's school. The Green family couldn't possibly have an illiterate who'd never been to school. Saying this out loud would make people laugh their heads off. Where would she hide her face then, even if it's just for show? Getting me into school would be better than hiding at home playing games all day. Winnie listened obediently nearby, finally expressing concern. "But sister has never been to school. Can she keep up?" Mrs. Green looked hesitant, but Mr. Green said with a stern face, "At her age, she can only be a senior in high school. Does she really want to repeat a grade? After taking the college entrance exam, we can just send her to any university abroad. At least she'll get a college diploma, which will save face." They made the decision right in front of me, without even considering asking for my opinion. Harry Green remained silent throughout, furrowing his brows as he glanced at me, seeming to want to say something but ultimately keeping quiet. Mr. Green finally made the decision. "Coincidentally, I have some influence with Principal Campbell at Ginkgo Academy. Asking him to admit one more student shouldn't be a problem." After speaking, noticing I was still fiddling with my phone with my head down, a flicker of disgust and regret flashed through his eyes. "I should have known better than to acknowledge this, daughter. I'm chatting with someone." I agreed. "Campbell, agreed to what?" "Campbell, coming to Ginkgo." "Campbell, finally decided to move your butt." Mrs. Green took me to school to complete the enrollment procedures. Winnie led the way ahead, occasionally pointing. He was introducing some buildings with obvious familiarity, speaking about them as if enumerating family treasures. With my hands in my pockets, I followed behind, casually looking around, matching what I saw with what the old principal had described. Though it was my first time here, the old principal had praised the school from top to bottom countless times to persuade me. I even knew what the most popular dish in the cafeteria was. The vice principal personally received us and even apologized, saying that Principal Campbell was away on a business trip. But all the matters he had instructed had been taken care of. With that, he took out my student ID. Mrs. Green was surprised, even somewhat flattered. Although the Green family was the wealthiest in the antique world, given Principal Ginkgo's status, if he had truly chosen to disregard the Greens, there wouldn't have been much they could do about it. But now, not only was the vice principal present to receive them, but from his tone, it seemed that if Principal Campbell hadn't been away on business, he would have personally welcomed them. Mrs. Green looked at Winnie with satisfaction, feeling that Winnie deserved some credit for this. It was Winnie's excellence, combined with the Greens' wealth, that made Principal Campbell treat them with special regard. The formalities were quickly completed. During the process, the vice principal stepped out to take a phone call and returned to say that Principal Campbell was on his way back. If they weren't in a hurry, they could wait here. Principal Campbell wanted to meet them in person. Mrs. Green was even more surprised and excitedly agreed, taking Winnie's hand with a beaming smile. "Our Winnie has been fortunate to receive your care, and trusting Winnie to your school for nurturing puts us parents at ease." The vice principal also smiled and complimented. "Student Winnie is poised and intelligent, ranking among the top academically at school. Mrs. Green is truly blessed." Hearing others praise her child, Mrs. Green was overjoyed. They were chatting enthusiastically, while the main person involved, was left aside. Seeing that the procedures were completed, I took my student ID and left the office. Just then, my phone rang. I pulled it out and saw a new message. "Campbell, I'll be there in half an hour. Wait for me." I'm off." "Campbell, don't go. I could almost picture a frantic old man before my eyes. I quickly shook my head. What's so great about seeing an old man? Thinking about the miserable student life that's about to begin. How could anyone enjoy their meal? During dinner, Mrs. Green proudly talked about handling the school enrollment. At the end, she particularly emphasized how the principal had specially met with them and praised Winnie. Our Winnie is truly outstanding. Cora benefited from Winnie's influence this time. Otherwise, things wouldn't have been so easy. Mr. Green nodded approvingly and said, "Indeed, the school didn't set any conditions this time. It must be because Winnie is there." Ginkgo High School has guaranteed admission spots to Peking University every year. Isn't it about time to start applying? Winnie replied modestly, "I've already applied, but the results haven't been announced yet." Mrs. Green couldn't stop smiling, showering praises, and saying Winnie was sure to secure the recommendation qualification. They spoke as if the recommendation spot was already Winnie's for the taking. When suddenly Harry Green, who had been silent until then, spoke up. "Ginkgo's recommendation isn't that easy to get. Winnie's grades seem a bit short, don't they?" Mrs. Green's face immediately fell, and she said unhappily, "What's lacking about Winnie?" Even Principal Campbell couldn't stop praising her. I bit my chopsticks and looked up at Winnie. "Campbell, Principal Campbell only accepted me because of your influence." Winnie's eyes flickered slightly as she maintained her graceful, elegant smile and said, "It's mainly the Green family's reputation, after all. Sister is a daughter of the Greens." Mrs. Green frowned at me. "Isn't it still because Winnie serves as a mediator? With her attending Ginkgo Academy, it was only because of her that they accepted you so easily. How can you speak to Winnie like that instead of thanking her?" Seeing Mrs. Green's anger, Winnie gently held her hand and comforted her. "Mom, it's okay. Sister hasn't been to school, so she might not know how hard it is to get into Ginkgo." The food in the bowl suddenly lost its appeal. I found myself missing the Duncan family a little. Even the crowing of chickens in the backyard sounded more pleasant than now. After settling the school enrollment matter, the Greens seemed to have forgotten about me entirely. They either took Winnie shopping for endless purchases or to attend banquets. Whenever Winnie received compliments at these parties, Mrs. Green would beam with joy as if she had eaten the fruit of immortality. Looking at Harry Green, the biological son, who works diligently every day like an old ox, yet struggles to receive a single kind word from Mrs. Green. If even the biological son who has been by her side for over 20 years is treated this way, then I, the daughter who was only recognized halfway, am even less valued, but I'm quite content with this arrangement. After days of enduring Frank's relentless nonsense bombardment, I finally sent him the invitation code. This is a small software I developed myself, which was later promoted by the old principal and became popular in certain circles. Anyone wanting to access the software must not only pass an evaluation but also have an internal invitation code. Frank had been coveting this software for a long time and finally passed the evaluation not long ago, persistently begging me for an invitation code. Well, if rookies enjoy being challenged, might as well indulge him. Mrs. Green is taking Winnie to another banquet tonight. Winnie glances at me lying on the sofa, something flickering in her eyes. She tugs at Mrs. Green's hand and pleads softly, "Mom, let's bring sister along too. She always stays at home and never goes out. Staying indoors for too long will make her sick." Mrs. Green gives me a glance, seeing me absorbed in my phone without even looking up. Her eyebrows immediately knit together in disapproval. "Today is the Lin family's banquet. All the important figures will be there." Look at her, glued to her phone all day. What kind of impression would that make? Wouldn't she just embarrass the Green family? Mrs. Green thought I wasn't presentable, so naturally she didn't want to take me out to social events. Whether biological or adopted, children were to her like elegant clothes or expensive jewelry, something to wear that could both please herself and earn praise from others. They also had to fit comfortably. Only then would they be considered acceptable. Otherwise, it's unacceptable. Clearly, among the 4 children, Winnie was the most qualified in her eyes, so at Winnie's pleading, Mrs. Green reluctantly agreed to take me out in the end. When we arrived at the Lin family's place, Mrs. Green initially kept me by her side. Someone asked who I was, and after she explained my identity, I received some ambiguous looks. Unlike Winnie, who has a sweet tongue, I only politely greet people each time. Not a single unnecessary word is spoken. Mrs. Green's face grew darker and darker. until she finally left me behind with a few instructions and took Winnie away. Winnie glanced back at me, her eyes gleaming with unmistakable pride. TSK, how utterly boring. I grabbed some snacks and casually chose a quiet corner, pulling out my phone again. But the tranquility was soon shattered. So, you're the real heiress the Green family just recognized. Not that impressive. Far worse than Winnie. A group of people approached me, led by a young man with a challenging gaze. I lifted my eyelids slightly, ignored them, and continued playing with my phone. The young man immediately felt embarrassed. I'm talking to you. I heard your family used to run an antique shop. No wonder you're so uncouth. He sneered. Spending all your time surrounded by antiques, you probably don't even know how to act in a high-class place like this, do you? That's why you're hiding here playing with your phone. Without looking up, I replied, same goes for being here. The young man didn't catch on at first, but when someone nearby whispered an explanation, he realized I was insulting him and flew into a rage. The commotion here drew attention. Soon, Mrs. Green appeared with Winnie, frowning instinctively at the sight. Cora, didn't I tell you not to cause trouble? How could you be so reckless? Don't you realize what kind of occasion this is? I put down my phone, looked up at her, and explained earnestly. He started it. The young man defended himself, saying he had greeted me kindly, but I was just playing with my phone and ignored him, even cursing at him. The people around him chimed in agreement. I didn't even look down on her for being a girl from an antique shop, yet she mocked me, humph. Just as expected from someone from the countryside. Such poor manners. Mrs. Green felt her face burn with shame, never having felt so humiliated before, especially seeing me still acting like nothing was wrong, head bowed playing with my phone. She felt a surge of anger. She snatched the phone from my hand and threw it to the ground, choking with rage as she said, I told you to stop playing with your phone and ignoring what I say. How could I have given birth to a daughter like you? As she spoke, she clutched her chest, looking utterly furious, and Winnie quickly supported her to comfort her. Others quickly tried to smooth things over, saying kids these days are all rebellious and whatnot. I lowered my head, staring silently at the phone that had been thrown to the ground. A pale, slender hand picked up the phone and held it out to me. Here, luckily it's not broken. He winked at me and smiled warmly, saying, you use this app too, it looks impressive. We should exchange tips sometime. The young man's arrival brought silence to the surroundings, leaving Mrs. Green slightly stunned. President Lin, how did you? The newcomer was the host of the banquet, the Lin family heir. Kevin, Mrs. Green, your daughter isn't just playing with ordinary software. It's a program jointly developed by several top universities, including Ginkgo University. Those who make it onto the leaderboard are practically guaranteed spots in prestigious universities. Mrs. Green struggled to process this. Playing with software can get you into a top university. Kevin sighed regretfully. Back then, even though I was the top scorer in the National College entrance exams, I could only rank second on the leaderboard. As he spoke, he glanced at me. I blinked my eyes in confusion. The crowd burst into murmurs, and the young man from earlier widened his eyes in astonishment, exclaiming, Bro, are you saying she has an invite code for that app? That's impossible. Everyone's attention was instantly drawn to the app Kevin mentioned. The young man is an even more avid software enthusiast, but unfortunately, he hasn't received an invitation code yet. As for the person who consistently dominates the top spot on the software rankings, his admiration borders on obsession. M is too mysterious. I wonder if I'll ever get to meet them in my lifetime. I gave him a casual glance. Hee. Winnie was still talking about the software excitedly when she got back. Mr. Green asked with interest, and she immediately recounted everything that had happened that evening. Finally, with a look of admiration, she said, that M is truly amazing. I heard they've been number one since forever, but unfortunately, no one knows their real identity. Mr. Green casually speculated, if they're really as impressive as you say, maybe they're a university professor. Winnie looked at him seriously and shook her head. No, Dad, the software's user policy states that users cannot be over 20 years old. The family of three warmly discussed the matter as I yawned and headed upstairs. Passing by Harry Green's room, I glanced inside. The diligent CEO hadn't returned yet, and none of the three downstairs mentioned it. How pitiful. Misery loves company. Though a family of five, two always remain nameless. First it was Mia, Now it's me. Now I think I understand why Mia returned to the Duncan family so decisively after learning she was the fake heiress. Soon it was time for school. I was assigned to Winnie's class, and Winnie was surprised to see me because it was an advanced class. Although I agreed to Campbell's request to come to school, I still slept whenever I wanted and played on my phone as usual. On the first day of school, Campbell came to check on me in class. Sure enough, I became Ginkgo's student. Satisfied, he walked away with his hands clasped behind his back, specifically instructing the teacher not to disturb me while I slept before leaving. My performance was reported to Winnie every day, and naturally, the Greens grew increasingly disappointed in me. Harry Green did make a point of talking to me once. I casually pulled out a test paper, completed it on the spot, and handed it to him. From then on, he never questioned my studies again. After some time passed, the school's recommendation quotas were announced. Winnie wasn't on the list, and my name was conspicuously included. When Winnie came home and shared the news, the household erupted in chaos. It must be a mistake. Did they confuse Cora's name with Winnie's? Mrs. Green instinctively responded. Winnie's eyes reddened. Her lips quivered, wearing an expression of barely suppressed grievance. This broke Mrs. Green's heart. She insisted it must be the school's mistake and vowed to visit the principal to demand they return the guaranteed admission spot to Winnie. Mr. Green frowned silently, yet he too didn't believe I had earned the guaranteed admission. Only Harry Green spoke fairly. Cora has excellent grades. It's not surprising she got the recommendation, but his words stirred up a hornet's nest. Winnie cried, I know I'm just adopted, and sister is brother's real sibling. So he's always favored her. This home was never truly mine. Perhaps I should have left sooner. With tears wiped away, she ran back to her room. Mrs. Green scolded Harry Green a few times before quickly following to comfort her. Mr. Green also looked at his son reproachfully. Is this how an older brother should act? Not only did you fail to console your sister when she was upset, but you also made her cry. Harry Green glanced at me, who had remained silent the whole time, then looked up at his father with a gaze that carried weight. Dad, Cora is also my sister, and Mia too. They're your daughters as well. You and Mom can see Winnie's grievances, so why can't you see theirs? Mr. Green's expression froze momentarily before he erupted in anger, glaring at him and saying, Are you questioning me? Harry Green met his gaze without flinching. In the end, it was the father who backed down. His son was already an adult and had inherited the family business from his grandfather. Although he was the father and could occasionally assert his seniority, he didn't dare to confront Harry Green head-on. Finally, he threw out a few perfunctory words and walked away. His retreating figure somehow gave off the impression of fleeing in panic. Harry Green turned his gaze to me, hesitated for a moment, then reached out to ruffle my hair with a gentle smile. Cora, congratulations. Actually, I don't really care about the recommendation spot. It must have been the old principal who nominated me. Feeling the warmth on my head, I smiled at Harry Green and called him by that title for the first time. Thank you, big brother. Sure enough, Mr. and Mrs. Green brought Winnie to see the principal. Harry Green couldn't rest easy and skipped work that day to come to the school as well. The recommendation quota was questioned, and the school took it very seriously. Summoning the relevant teachers and students as witnesses, Principal Campbell looked sternly at Winnie. Do you suspect the recommendation quota is fake? Winnie hid behind Mrs. Green, not daring to meet Principal Campbell's gaze, and said with her head lowered, I don't suspect the quota is fake. It's just that my sister hasn't even attended school, so how could she possibly qualify for recommendation? Maybe the school made some mistake. I also don't want my sister to take someone else's spot. That wouldn't be fair to others. As her words fell, they stirred a wave of murmurs, drawing all sorts of peculiar gazes toward me. Harry Green frowned slightly and stepped forward to shield me. Principal Campbell gave Winnie a deep look before shifting his gaze to Mr. and Mrs. Green. Cora is your daughter. When others doubt her, how can you, as her parents, not believe in her? Mrs. Green pursed her lips and declared solemnly, They are both my daughters. I favor neither and only seek fairness. What noble fairness. Principal Campbell chuckled but said no more. He took out the documents and spread them one by one before everyone. Who told you that not going to school means you haven't learned? Some super geniuses simply don't fit into traditional schooling. Self-studying for 1 year can surpass what others achieve in 10 years at school. These are the certificates and awards Cora has earned since childhood. most of which are from national-level competitions where she consistently won gold medals. This alone qualifies her for admission to any university in the country. These are the journal papers Cora has published since she was 12, along with 23 patents, and the most insignificant among them is this software she developed at the age of 9. Principal Campbell took out his phone and opened it, revealing a familiar app. Winnie, already stunned by what she heard, turned deathly pale, her body seemingly unable to stand steady. She's not your typical genius. Her brain is humanity's most precious treasure. If she wanted, she could obtain a degree certificate from any university right now. She didn't even care for a guaranteed admission spot. I was the one who insisted on offering it. The surroundings fell into utter silence, with no one speaking for a moment. Mr. and Mrs. Green were the most shocked of all, staring at me blankly, forgetting to react. Their least favored daughter turned out to be such a genius. They were somewhat at a loss, especially Mrs. Green, who seemed torn between approaching me and holding back. In the silence, I tilted my head slightly and looked at Principal Campbell. Principal Campbell gave me a reproachful look, smiling warmly as he said, "No need for formalities. Call me Grandpa." I obliged cheerfully. "Grandpa Chen, does that mean I don't have to come to school for classes anymore?" Principal Campbell chuckled kindly. "That's fine, but you'll still need to come for exams." I nodded casually and turned to leave. The crowd instantly parted like the Red Sea, making way. At the school gate, Harry Green stood by the car, silently casting his gaze toward me. I didn't walk over. Just then, Mrs. Green caught up. "Cora, wait for Mom, child. Why are you walking so fast?" With a reproachful yet smiling expression, she reached for my hand. "Why didn't you tell Mom and Dad earlier? If you had, we wouldn't have made this unnecessary trip to school today. Are you hungry? Today, Mom and Dad will take you out for something delicious. After eating, we'll go shopping. Mom will buy you whatever you want." Mr. Green stood silently by, his quiet presence expressing support for his wife. Behind the two of them, Winnie looked pale, with tears in her eyes, appearing as if she might collapse at any moment. I avoided Mrs. Green's hand, and her smile stiffened slightly. "No need, I'm going home." Mrs. Green forced a smile. "If you're tired and want to go home to rest, that's fine too. Let's hurry and get in the car." She opened the door of the luxury car beside Harry Green. I stood still without moving. Mrs. Green's smile grew increasingly stiff, almost unable to hold, when suddenly a cheerful shout came. "Sis, I'm here to pick you up." A second-hand minivan parked not far away, Frank grinning like a fool, waving vigorously at me through the car window. In the driver's seat, Mia rested one hand on the steering wheel and adjusted her glasses with the other, casting a casual glance my way. Her gaze swept over Mrs. Green and Mr. Green without a trace of emotion. I waved casually at Harry Green. "Bro, come hang out when you're free. I'll treat you to some pastries Mia made." With that, he shoved his hands into his pockets and strode toward the van. Harry Green watched the retreating figure, showing no trace of hesitation, and recalled their first conversation. He muttered under his breath, "So that's what he meant by bringing himself along." In the van, Mia glanced at me through the rearview mirror. "Back to the Duncan family." I shook my head. "Find a place with internet. I need to take care of something." Frank leaned over curiously. "What's up, sis?" I pulled out my phone, and the screen displayed dozens of unread messages, all from the same person, Devin. This was a friend I met through the app, and the only one who could threaten my position on the leaderboard. He had always wanted to know M's true identity, and I was also very intrigued by this mysterious rival. "Arrange a meetup," I said calmly. Mia glanced at me through the rearview mirror, the corners of her lips curling slightly upward. "That Devin who's been chasing after you." I nodded. "It's time to meet this legendary genius." Half an hour later, we arrived at a cafe downtown. I sent Devin the location in advance and arranged to meet him here. Just as I sat down by the window, a familiar figure walked through the door, tall and handsome. It was none other than Kevin, whom I had met at the Lin family banquet. He glanced around the room, his gaze finally settling on me, a flicker of surprise flashing in his eyes. He tentatively asked. I nodded. "Devin." He froze for a few seconds, then burst into laughter. "So that's why you didn't react at all when you heard M's name that day." After sitting down, he looked at me with great interest. "I never thought the legendary M would turn out to be the long-lost heiress of the Green family." "You knew my identity all along?" I asked, Just confirmed it moments ago. Kevin picked up his coffee, but thinking about it now, everything makes sense. What makes sense? Why do you always turn down my invitations? And why are you so exceptionally skilled at topics related to antique appraisal? He chuckled, a genius born into a family of antique connoisseurs. It certainly adds up. I looked at him quietly. So you asked to meet me just to confirm my identity. It's not just that. Kevin's smile faded, his expression turning serious. I want to invite you to join my team. What kind of team? A project team dedicated to the digital preservation of ancient artifacts. His eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. We're developing a brand new antique appraisal system and need a genius like you. I fell silent for a moment. This proposal was genuinely intriguing, far more interesting than lying at home scrolling through my phone. What are the terms? You can work from home without needing to come into the office. You'll get 30% of the project profits, plus a basic monthly salary. Sounds good. I nodded. I'll consider it. Kevin visibly relaxed. That's great. I'll send you the detailed materials as soon as possible. Just then, the cafe door opened again. Harry Green hurried in, scanning the crowd before quickly locking eyes with me. He strode over with a somewhat gloomy expression. Cora, what are you doing here? Having coffee, I replied succinctly. Harry Green's gaze fell upon Kevin, his eyes instantly turning wary. President Lin, I didn't expect to meet you here. President Green. Kevin nodded politely. I'm discussing a collaborative project with your younger sister. A collaborative project? Harry Green frowned. Cora is still in school and doesn't have time for any projects. Bro, I looked up at him. I have my own judgment. Harry Green froze for a moment, seemingly not expecting me to contradict him so directly. Cora, you're still young. Some things. I'm already 18. I interrupted him. Legally, I'm a person with full civil capacity. Kevin watched the conversation between the siblings with a glint of amusement in his eyes. Finally, Harry Green let out a sigh. All right, but before making any decisions, you need to discuss them with me first. Deal? I nodded. At that moment, Mia pushed the door open and walked straight to our table. Cora, Frank is waiting in the car, and getting impatient. We should go. Her sudden appearance took all three of us by surprise. Kevin was the first to react, standing up and extending his hand. Ms. Mia, I've heard so much about you. Mia politely shook his hand. You flatter me, Mr. Lin. Harry Green's expression was somewhat complicated, his gaze toward Mia carrying a hint of scrutiny. Mia, how did you? I'm here to take Cora home, Mia said calmly. Mr. Green won't object, will he? Harry Green opened his mouth but ultimately said nothing. I stood up and said to Kevin, send the materials to my email. I'll give them serious consideration. Understood. Kevin nodded. Looking forward to our collaboration. Stepping out of the cafe, Mia suddenly asked, what terms did he offer you? 30% of the project profits, plus a monthly salary. Not enough. Mia adjusted her glasses. With your skills, it should be at least 50%. I turned to look at her. You know a lot about this. It's just business negotiation, she said lightly. You're too easily satisfied. That makes you an easy target. Frank leaned out from the car window. Sis, what are you talking about? Hurry up and get in. I'm starving. Back at the Duncan household, Duncan's parents were busy working in the shop. Seeing us return, Duncan's mother came out, wiping her hands. Has Cora come back? Have you eaten yet? Not yet. Then hurry up and wash your hands for dinner. I made sweet and sour pork ribs for you. Sitting at the familiar dining table, eating familiar dishes, I suddenly felt very grounded. Dad Duncan put down his work and came over to sit as well. Cora, I heard you got a direct admission spot at school. That's amazing, Dad Duncan said with pride all over his face. Truly our child. Mom Duncan rolled her eyes beside him. What do you mean, our child? She's from the Green family. In my heart, Cora will always be our child, Dad Duncan said earnestly. My heart warmed, and the corners of my mouth lifted unconsciously. This must be what family feels like. No need to prove anything, no need to be outstanding, just pure acceptance and love. Mia watched the scene quietly from the side, a hint of envy flashing in her eyes. Mia is also amazing. I suddenly spoke up. She manages the antique shop flawlessly and has even drawn up expansion plans. Mom and Dad Duncan immediately turned their attention to Mia, their faces filled with pride. Mia truly is a good child. She's been a tremendous help since coming to our home. Yeah, much better than this kid Frank. Mom Duncan laughed. Frank protested unhappily. Mom, I'm working hard too, you know. You call that working hard? Mia adjusted her glasses. Yesterday you priced a Ming Dynasty blue and white porcelain as Qing Dynasty. If I hadn't caught it in time, we would have lost big. Frank immediately deflated. It was just a momentary mistake. The family was happily eating and chatting together. Suddenly, I felt that perhaps this was the life I truly wanted. No need to prove how talented I am, no need to strive for recognition, just simply being with those who love me. My phone rang. It was Kevin sending over the project materials. I casually opened and skimmed through them. It was indeed a promising project. Mia leaned over to take a glance, then picked up my phone and started studying it carefully. This project looks good, but the risk allocation isn't fair, she analyzed while reading. They've shifted most of the risks onto the technical partner, which is you. What should we do then? Let's renegotiate the terms. Mia put down her phone. You handle the technical side, and I'll take care of the business negotiations. You want to get involved? Why not? She said matter-of-factly. Digitizing antique preservation. This is exactly my area of expertise. I thought for a moment, then nodded. With Mia, the business genius, helping out, things would indeed be much easier. The next day, Kevin reached out to me. Cora, have you thought it over? I'm in, but we need to revisit the terms of cooperation. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. Sure, let's schedule a time to meet. All right, but I'll be bringing a partner. A partner? Mia, you should know her. Kevin visibly froze for a moment. Mia is also joining this project. Is there a problem? No, of course not. His voice sounded somewhat excited. Having Mia on board will significantly increase the project's chances of success. It seems Mia's reputation in the industry is even more impressive than I imagined. After hanging up the phone, I turned to look at Mia, who was organizing antiques. Kevin agreed. We'll discuss the specifics of the collaboration tomorrow at 3 p.m. at his company. Got it, Mia replied without looking up. I'll prepare a new proposal. Are you confident about this project? Digital preservation of antiques is the trend of the future. If this project succeeds, its market value will start at least at 1 billion. She put down the blue and white porcelain in her hand and turned to look at me. Cora, do you know what your technology means? I shook my head. It allows antique enthusiasts worldwide to appreciate and study ancient artifacts with high precision through the internet. This is not just a commercial project but a revolution in cultural heritage preservation. Mia's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm for her career and anticipation for the future. Suddenly, I understood why the Green family nurtured talents like Mia. She wasn't just intelligent. More importantly, she had her own ideals and aspirations. What about me? What else do I have besides innate talent? Cora, Mia seemed to read my thoughts. Talent is a gift from heaven, but how you use it is entirely up to you. I nodded, feeling a decision slowly forming in my heart. Perhaps it's time to take my life seriously. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.